Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we have a guest from Comanche, head girls basketball coach Diana Salinas.
Yeah, Coach Salinas was someone that I got to follow a little bit when I first got out to Abilene and was covering Hardin-Simmons. She had been a player there shortly before I got here and was an assistant coach at the time while I was covering them. And then obviously she's been at Comanche the last 7 years. So a really big country success story. She led the Comanche girls basketball program to some really big heights back when she was a player. Went to Hardin-Simmons and led that program to some really special things. Yeah, Coach Salinas has been a winner both as a player and a coach just about everywhere she's been. She's got that program back on track this year after a couple of tough rebuilding seasons with some young teams. Got us back in the playoffs. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Maidens can do now that they're back in the postseason. This has been a really nice season for them. Their only district losses were to just juggernauts from Peaster and Brock. So this is a good team she's got this year, and it's going to be fun to see kind of some enthusiasm with a return to winning there in Comanche.
And she's one of the nicest people you will meet in the coaching ranks. And we have a lot of very good people, but she's especially nice. It's a very classy lady that we have joining us tonight.
Yeah, she and her husband, Jamie, are both great people. They coached together at Hardin-Simmons and now are coaching together at Comanche. But it's going to be fun talking to her about this year, about the season, about this group, and about some of the things they've been able to accomplish. We talked a minute ago about some of the rebuilding that they did. They had some real struggles, particularly a couple of years ago with a really young team. So to be back in the playoffs and to be playing as well as they are, it should be a fun time talking with her for this week's podcast.
Before we do that, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stephenville and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. And with that, it's time to jump into this week's show. Before we bring Coach Salinas on, playoff basketball is getting started here, and we wanted to talk about a few things up front. Dan, you were just there for the Cooper Wiley game. Wiley is the only girls team that is going into the playoffs this year locally. How do you assess their chances in postseason?
Yeah, I mean, I like this Wiley girls team. It's a really scrappy, gritty bunch. I talked about that in the feature I wrote on Sunday about the seniors. But they do have a tough first-round matchup. They did themselves, I think, a favor by finishing second in district play, but that still earns you a by-district matchup with a tough team because they're paired up there with that Amarillo district, which has Amarillo High, which is a perennial power. That's one of those that's a state contender a lot of years. Plainview is a great program. And then they're going to get Amarillo Tascosa in the first round. And that will be a challenge as well. Tascosa's record, right around 500. It's not as shiny maybe as some of the opponents that they had in that district. However, when you look at what they've done and how that record was achieved, you realize that Tascosa is a pretty darn good basketball team. They played non-district games against a couple of Wiley's district opponents in Lubbock, Monterey, and against Lubbock, Coronado, and beat Monterey very comfortably. And then the Coronado game that was pretty a comfortable win as well, a double-digit win. So I think you're going to face a team that's going to be, a very talented team. It's going to be a tough matchup for a first round. But this Wiley team is playing well. They go into the playoffs on a 2-game winning streak. So we'll just kind of have to see how it goes.
I myself went out to Stephenville for Brownwood Stephenville on Friday night, and this Stephenville ball club, I like their chances for a deep run, but the problem is it's almost a coin flip in Region 1 when you have as many quality ball clubs as we do. And it's usually sooner than later, you run into a monstrous program, and you're just going to have to fight your way through it. Stephenville's among them. Stephenville's a great ball club. They come into the playoffs at 20-2. They've got 2 or 3 quality scorers. They play very well defensively, great man-to-man defense. They hustle. But sooner or later, you're going to run into a Glen Rose. You're going to run into a Canyon. There's a number of very good ball clubs out there, and you're just going to have to battle your way through the hurdles, and there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, I like the Stephenville team. And one of the things I like most about it is that they've got Allie McClendon back in the post, a girl who was a really, really good player for them as a sophomore. And then as a junior last year, hurt her knee and missed pretty much the entire year. But having her back inside, I think, really makes that a dangerous team because they've got some really good quality guards that can handle the ball well, pass well, can score a little bit. and then you've got McClendon in post, who's just a force. So I like the Stephenville team. I like what they're putting on the floor, but I do think you're right. Ultimately, I mean, you run into somebody really tough. It eventually, and they're going to have to find a way to win those types of games. One thing that will play in their favor is they've had several of those types of opponents on their schedule, be it non-district or district. So they will be prepared for whatever they face in the playoffs. But at the same time, it's one thing to be prepared. It's another thing to go out and win those games.
Let's move down to Class 3A. The ball clubs that generally that we're going to like to advance deep into the this Region 1 bracket are there again. Wall is there. Jim Net is there. Brock is there. A very nasty team from Peaster is in there as well. So, I mean, the team that gets out of Region 1 is going to earn its way to state.
Yeah, I think this bracket's fun. Obviously, you've got the biggies at the top, kind of the usual suspects. But one of the things I think is kind of interesting is the teams just below that tier, where I think you've got a lot of really quality ball clubs too, like a Ballinger, for instance, which finished third in that district behind Jim Net and Wall, but can really play. And then you think about a team like Merkel, same kind of the same story. So I think that that this is going to be a fun bracket. You've got a couple of those spoiler type teams that are not gimmies at all. You've got to show up to play. So that's one of the things I enjoy about this time of year is that you get those types of matchups and kind of the potential for upsets.
Now, there's a few other ball clubs that I had not mentioned at a Region 1 that's going to make it even more difficult. We can't forget top-ranked Shallowater is in there. They were unbeaten at the tail end of last week. Idalou, ranked number 4, came in to the weekend. Well, actually, they come into this week at 23-3. Canadian, 21-2. They're in there. Brownfield has only lost once this year. They're in there. It's a monstrous region. If you get through this thing, you have earned your way to state. No doubt about it.
Yeah, there's no question. And that's the thing when you think about the success that a Wall and a Jim Net have had playing in this region over the years. And they're right in that mix as well. I think they're underrated, if anything. You look at where they come into the week ranked. I think that they're being undervalued. But yeah, their path, any path you have to a region championship in Region 1 is just absolutely brutal. So it's going to be fun to follow. I think if you're looking at our teams, I think Brock, Wall, and Jim Ned, kind of the usual suspects of the three that you think of. But good night. You're going to have to win some big games to get there.
All right, now let's drop down to Class 2A. Two teams that we have to like for a possible deep run. San Saba, which entered Friday unbeaten before losing to Mason for the first time this year. They were ranked third going into last week. And then, of course, Haskell, which closed last week ranked 15th. They were upset by Stanford, and then they fell in a warm-up game to Idalou on Saturday. But that's a very difficult ranked Class 3A team, and they still gave them a good go. I still like Haskell's overall game. I think they can make a good run, and you have to like the San Saba Ball Club also.
Yeah, I think both of those are teams to watch for sure. But I think along with Haskell, I think you have to include that entire district. Anson's a team that defensively can get after you, and they have some speed offensively. And they don't match up particularly well with Haskell, obviously, based on the two outcomes in that game. But they've got some really good wins on their resume. So that's a good team I think you got to watch for. And then Stanford's another one of those that if you can go, I don't care when it happens, if you can go and beat Haskell, you've got a team that can contend. So I really like that district. And then you've got Cisco there in the 4 seed. You've got 4 teams there that not a one of those is a team that you want to face in the playoffs.
If when Stanford gets the Bevel kid going, if you don't stop her, you're going to be in for, a tough go. And that was, she gave Haskell fits the other night. This girl can play, so we'll see. And then the benefit is, if you don't really thoroughly scout them and you get into the playoffs and you don't, put somebody on her that can stop her or at least slow her down, you're going to be playing all night against them. And then you're going to have a hard time shaking them because she can score.
No, I think that. Yeah, I think that district's going to do some real damage in that Region 2 bracket because when you've got a team like Cisco with a player like Sofia Hurtado, 1,000-point scorer, finishing 4th in the district, that tells you the strength of that league. Those are 4 good teams, all of which are going to have to be contended with in that bracket. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a fun race there. All 4 of those teams are going to be fun to follow. And then I think in Region 1, kind of our dark horse, I would put as Colorado City, just the fact they've got Mia Monroe back from her knee injury and are playing really well right now. Obviously, they're going to face some big time challenges that are going to be tough to overcome in that region, but that's a team with some firepower, and it's going to be fun to see how they can kind of navigate that region as well.
All right, now we're going to jump down to Class 1A, and we have, as always, we have a myriad of teams from the Big Country that are ranked. Huckabee at number 3, at least at the close of last week. We had May at number 8. We had Eula at number 9. Westbrook at number 13. Monday at number 15. Robert Lee at number 20. Our region is loaded. There's a number of girls teams that have a shot at doing some postseason damage, and you never know. It's quite often that we send a 1A to San Antonio. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and we almost always have 1As playing in a region tournament, so it's gonna be fun to follow. I think that May team's one that's certainly one to watch. I like this Monday team. I got to see them last year when they were really you could tell last year they were a year away. Like that they had a lot of really good young players that were coming into their own. And this year they've made that transition. And you look at what they're doing right now, it's very, very impressive. But those 1A brackets are always fun to follow. We've always got teams, like you said, that are contenders for an opportunity to play for a spot at the state tournament. And this year should be no different. I think you're going to see several of these teams in region tournaments, or at least contending to get into region tournaments. And then once you get there, I mean, anything can happen. So it's going to be fun to follow these teams. I think this is going to be a really fun 1A playoff season for the Big Country.
All right, and with that, it's just about time to bring on Coach Diana Salinas of Comanche. But before we do that, we want to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts free of charge throughout the school year. Also, for Love of the Game Broadcasting, our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country, AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That's for the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give him a shout at 325-669-5153 or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. And finally, Jack's Road Boring out of Snyder, dirt sales and services with service and experience that you can count on. Larry Green is the man to call out there. Give him a shout at 325-575-8004. That's Jack's Road Boring in Snyder. And with that, Dan, it is time to bring on Coach Diana Salinas of Comanche. Again, one of the friendliest people that you're going to meet in the area in the coaching ranks. And most of these people are friendly, so that's saying a lot. Yeah,
for sure. And in addition to that, she's a tremendous coach, and I think she's proven that this year, just with the growth that she's helped this team make. And it's gonna be fun talking with her just about that. This is a team that has really gone through some struggles to get to this point, and now they're in a position to go play a playoff game. So it's gonna be fun talking with her about that and just kind of the excitement level around town based on what she and her girls have done.
Yeah, well, they just got hammered by graduation a couple of years ago. They had a nice little run from 15 through 18, and they were pretty dang good, actually, making the playoffs throughout that. And then all of a sudden, boom, most of their talent is gone, and they're starting from scratch. So, I mean, she's had that challenge, and she's managed to overcome it, and here they are again.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat that she's, obviously that's her alma mater, so it means more to her. And she stood through there to navigate that, and they've done it. They got through the toughest part, and now they're back to being able to compete at a high level, and it's going to be fun to see how they do that in the playoffs.
She's done an outstanding job in getting them back into postseason play, and that's in a rough district with the likes of Brock and Peaster and that bunch, and it doesn't get any easier.
No, it's going to be tough, but they're the fact that they're in this position, I think, is a major accomplishment, and I think this team is one that it can go out there and compete in a bi-district game. So we'll have to see, and it looks like Coach Salinas is about ready to join us.
And joining us now, Comanche head girls basketball coach Diana Salinas. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you guys are having a great turnaround this season. What are the biggest factors in your estimation that led to this?
I think our biggest thing that we've been working on is just believing that we can compete with the girls that are in our district, the teams that are in our district. And I say that we have a group that's young. Obviously, we're senior heavy, but they're young in that they've never been in this situation. And so I don't think they know any better other than let's just play hard. And so that has been big for us, is just competing every day and knowing that, hey, anything can happen on any given night.
Okay, and you mentioned being young, and you kind of saw that 2 years ago in the record, and then last year y'all took a little bit of a step forward. This year, a big step forward. So it's kind of been a steady growth. As a coach, what's it been like just to watch that process and see these girls continue to take strides
Oh
forward?
man, it has been fun. You've seen the maturity. We only have one girl who has played at this level, and that's our number 33, Megan Carter. And so, what just watching her and just kind of leading, and she's had a big second half of our district. She's just worked extremely hard, and you've seen that in her points and in her records. And so, watching these girls evolve as a team, they're not a selfish group. They know who's having a good night, pass her the ball. They know each other, and they play well with each other. And so it's just been really fun to watch them evolve into a team rather than individuals. And I think you see it on the court, and they bring in an excitement that we haven't seen in a very long time.
Coach, you guys had a pretty good run from 15 through 18 there. You were making the playoffs, and then you got hit hard by graduation.
Yes.
Actually, that might be an understatement. Almost like Comanche got punched by Mike Tyson.
Absolutely.
What kind of tell us about the mental challenges when you have to completely rebuild from scratch like that, from your perspective?
For me as a coach, I really have to focus on the mentality of how to show these girls that, okay, yeah, it's about skills and playing basketball, but the important part is figuring out how to get them to work hard every day, knowing that, the last couple of years, we may not win many games. And so my goal was to just help them understand that if you work hard now, you're going to see the success later on. And for young girls, that's hard to teach. It really is. But finally, we're seeing the success. We're seeing what hard work can do. And these girls, I mean, they've been playing on freshman JV teams, and so they don't realize, oh, I'm not really on varsity, so why am I working hard? They understood that, and they understood that, hey, I'm eventually going to see some success from my hard work, and you're seeing it now.
And Coach, you mentioned that success, and y'all are back in the playoffs after a couple of years of a break. But how excited is the community right now? How excited are these girls, and just what's it been like watching them prepare for this?
They have a great group of parents. First off, they have been, I think they decorated the locker room the other day, and it's been a while since, we've done those things. I think the excitement that they bring on the floor, and again, remember that I feel like they're young-minded. They just get fired up over, a charge taken or a block or a three-point shot, and the fans see that. And I mean, our crowds are getting bigger. I know with the pandemic, it's been hard to have a packed gym, and we really miss that, but we're still seeing the community support us, on social media and around town. I tell them all the time, you're the talk of the town right now, and soak it all in, because one day it's going to be over, and all you have are those memories. And so it's been fun.
And Coach, obviously sharing a district with Peaster and with Brock, a couple of teams that are kind of perennial powers at that classification. You got to feel pretty well prepared for anything you'll see in the playoffs at this point. Do you think that has helped the girls kind of know what they're going to be facing?
Oh, absolutely. When we first found out what district we were going to be in, we thought, oh my goodness, how is this year going to be? And then pandemic hit. I mean, we were kind of on a roll at the end of the season. We've had the girls ready. They were wanting to play spring league, and we were going to go to tournaments. I mean, we had it all planned out. And so we thought, oh, this is going to be tough. For me, my job was to make sure that they didn't already chalk up the season, when you hear Peaster and Brock and those teams. But definitely the season, the district that we've been in has prepared us. For example, on Friday, we played Peaster. We knew how that game was going to play out, but our goal was to get better. And man, Peaster plays some really tough defense. And I felt like for the most part, our guards did a really good job handling that pressure, because we know at this point going forward, that's what we're going to see. And I think we handled it fairly well. I mean, we scored 37 points on a team where, teams are only scoring 11, 20 points. And I think we'll be ready. And I think it's going to be because of the district that we're in. And so I'm extremely thankful for it.
Coach, looking around the region, what are some of the other threats that you say? There's going to be plenty of them.
Well, our region in basketball is extremely tough. And I think, second round, you're looking at Jim Ned, Wall. I think that's our next teams that we're going to play. And so, from here on out, it's an extreme battle. And again, I think our youth helps us in that because, our girls are just along for the ride. And any given day, like I said earlier, anything can happen as long as you give 100% and you work hard. And that's what they're doing.
And Coach, it seems like one thing that you've kind of done during your time at Comanche is schedule tough in the non-district. That's something you look at some of the teams y'all played over the years. Y'all played up a lot, teams like Brownwood and Burnett and things like that. Is that something you've done by design to kind of prepare your teams for these types of things, or is that just kind of the games you've been able to schedule?
I when I came in, the schedule that was already set was extremely tough. I mean, we were playing teams like Jim Ned and teams that were going to make us. It was going to be hard. These past couple of years, I've kind of gone to where we play a big school than a small school, if you kind of noticed our schedule. And so I knew that we still had to have that feeling of success. Losing is very hard. And, we had those years where we were losing every game. And so I wanted our girls this year to really feel that success. And so we just made a schedule where we knew we would compete. It would be tough. But then also we knew we'd have opportunities to win. And so that's kind of how the schedule played out this year. And I think that it's been pretty good for us this year.
All right, Coach, you've actually coached at both of your alma maters. You went to Hardin-Simmons and you went to Comanche High School.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Comanche is my home. I never thought I would come back home. I never thought I would coach high school basketball. And really God said, this is what you're doing. And so my husband and I really focused on what he was calling us to do. I played in a very strong tradition of basketball in Comanche. I played on the 1998 state championship team as a freshman. And so just being able to come back home and be a part of the people who coached me, and I just wanted to be a part of that as well. I have a daughter who is in the 7th grade. And so we knew at some point we would want to coach her. And so we're getting to do that as well. Going to Hardin-Simmons, man, being a player under Shanna Briggs, Julie Goodenough, I felt like I was bringing back to Comanche some really good, I was being mentored by some people that I knew I could maybe be or bring something to the table here in Comanche. And so I'm excited to be able to do that and continue to do that here.
Did you know you wanted to be a coach all along, or did that idea come late?
I did. I knew I wanted to be a coach. For me, my mother was a coach. She coached me, so it was kind of in our blood. And I got to watch her do that. I just knew it was a really tough business. But I really wanted to coach the higher level. I wanted to be an assistant coach. That relationship, I love relationships, being personable. It's just what I do. And so I was happy being at Hardin-Simmons, being one of those assistant coaches and having a relationship with those college kids. Man, it was really fun. And I loved higher education. But I knew that one day I would be a coach. I just never thought I would be a head coach. And I'm so glad God allowed me to do that because I'm having fun. And we're enjoying being back home and doing what we love. So it's been great.
And Coach, you mentioned when talking about the opportunity to coach your daughter, and you've had a unique opportunity in that you've gotten to coach with your husband.
Yes.
What's that been like to work if you did at Hardin-Simmons and I guess at Comanche as well? What's that been like?
Not a whole lot of people understand it, but we just really love having the opportunity to feed off each other. For me, I can see the game and see the big picture and working on watching film and doing those things. He sees the little things that I miss sometimes. And so we just really make a good team. And, we just knew, like I said, he and I have been together since I was 14. We're high school sweethearts, and we've just always been so close. And now just to have the opportunity to coach together and then coach our daughter, and we have 3 other kids that are going to be in the system as well. And so we hope that we can continue to do that. And it has been a fun ride.
And Coach, you've also had the opportunity, like we talked about, to coach both at the college and high school level. I guess just what are some of the biggest differences between that? And what are maybe some of the adjustments you had to make when you did come back to the high school ranks?
The biggest adjustment had to be was, at the college level, you don't have to break down detail. I mean, the girls know how to set a screen, or they know how to play man-to-man defense. And for when I came down that first year, I had these big plans of we're only running man-to-man and we're only doing certain things, and quickly realized, oh, wait, these are young girls. And I have to really break down things for them at all levels, even as a senior, oh, well, we've got to teach them again how to do this. And that has been the hardest thing for me, is remembering that I can't just say, go do this. I have to visually show them, and I'm a visual learner. And it's a reason why I try to stay in shape and exercise, is because I like to just be right in the middle of it. And I'll play defense and I'll show them what I want, because sometimes the way I say it may not come out correctly and they're doing something completely different. And so that's been the biggest difference. The other thing mentally, you've got to have to work them up, knowing that you're going to play some girls who are at a higher level than they are. But that doesn't mean that they're better than you. You can work just as hard and still have the same outcome.
Coach, tell us about the challenges of coaching in the COVID era. And it's different. It's different at almost every school, depending on what the scenario is.
I have more gray hair, I feel like, this season, just because of the COVID. But our school has done a really great job following the guidelines. We wear our mask for our team. We've been very, very strict about when we wear our mask. During practice, they have their mask on. We'll take breaks. A lot of times it ends up under their chin, but they quickly put it back up, especially when we huddle in. We wear it on the bench. And so our main focus has been, if we wear our mask and we do what is asked of us, then we can play as long as we possibly can. And so far we've been good. But the challenges immediately we saw was, what are we going to do in the summer? Everything came to a stop. We were doing some summer workouts, and then, everything had to go virtual, and, just had to trust that the girls did what they needed to do to make sure they came back when we could, strong and ready to work. During the season, again, just reiterating, hey, on the weekends, make sure when you're around your family, you stay with your family and you try to not go out. And if you do, wear your mask. And it has been very, very stressful, to say the least. I think for volleyball, it was harder because, they're kind of the first group to kind of go through the experience. And then we kind of learned what we needed to do during basketball. So it has been a little bit easier, but you just never know what's going to happen and who's going to come back quarantined, or because they're sick, or because of direct contact. So it's just, you just hope that each day you're able to play.
Okay, Coach, we've got a hypothetical question for you. We're going to make you queen for a day. And what, if any, changes to high school basketball would you make if you could?
I would, goodness, that's a tough question, Evan. You want to change anything when you're yelling at the refs, or, on the bench, but then when it's really a question, I would like to change defensively. But what I've noticed lately is the hand checking on defense. Allow that to happen, or not allow it to happen, so that, we played Peace the other night, and man, they just played really solid defense, hands on us. I want to be able to either do that or not do that. Does that make sense?
Yes. You want some consistency with the calling there.
Yeah. And I think that would change the way we could play a little bit. You could say, hey, you just on ball, hand on her hip, making sure you have one other hand out, and it's not going to get called. And I think that would change the aggressiveness of the game for sure.
You were mentioning yelling at the refs. I cannot picture Diana Salinas screaming at the refs. I can't picture that. I've got to, let me ask you this. As nice as you are, have you ever been teed up? Have you been teed?
You know, Evan, I hate to say this. It was my very first year, and there's a whole backstory. So you and I can visit about it one day. I got thrown out my first game of my first year of my coaching career in high school. And I'll have to just tell you the story about it because it's one that probably doesn't need to go on air. But I did get a warning the other day, and you know, I get made fun of because for 7 years, no one can hear me. And now we have this mask on. And so timeouts are a huge issue. You know, no one can ever hear me yell a timeout. So that's why I wear heels. I'm known for my stomping because nobody can hear me when I call a timeout. And that's where my husband helps me because he's got a little stronger voice than I do.
Diana Salinas got ejected from a game. I've got to hear this.
But I did. It was one that I didn't have to do anything over. So I didn't have to go to Austin.
No trips to Austin.
No trips to Austin.
We've got last question, but this is something we ask a lot of our basketball coaches, and you have kind of a unique perspective on it, in that you've coached with one and without one, between college and high school. But what are your thoughts on the proposition of maybe a shot clock in high school basketball? And do you think that would be something that would help the game or hurt it?
You know, I think it would help it. I loved playing with a shot clock. It would definitely change the pace of the game. It would be tough in that teaching some fundamentals of making sure we push the ball, we don't get in too big of a hurry, because you know, high school basketball, you've got young girls. I see a lot of turnovers. I see kind of a sloppy game, but obviously with some practice and getting used to, I think it would be kind of fun to see. Now, I will say the first couple of years in our practices, I implemented kind of a 30-second shot clock because we just offensively, we could never get into, we wanted to run just a set play. And so giving them 30 seconds to figure out, hey, I've got to penetrate, I've got to shoot the ball, just because we weren't doing enough of that. We did that a lot in our practices for a few years, and I felt like it made a huge change in our offense fairly quickly, and we were able to kind of do more offensively.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be keeping an eye on you guys during the playoffs, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
And that was Comanche head girls basketball coach Diana Salinas. It's going to be interesting to see how far they can get in this, monstrous regional bracket. Actually, it's interesting to see how far anybody gets in it. We're going to lose some good teams. We're going to lose some good teams early, and there's no escaping that.
No, definitely. I do think the one thing that should help Comanche is that they've seen teams at that level, having played Peaster twice, Brock a couple of times, that they know what that level looks like, and they haven't been quite able to rise to that level, but they've seen it. So, and in basketball, as we see in the NCAA tournament every year, it's an interesting sport. All you have to do is show up that one day, have a great shooting day, have a great, just have it play one inspired performance. You have a chance to get that upset. That's one thing that's so much fun about postseason basketball, is you don't have to be the better team. You just have to be the better team for that period. And it's gonna be fun to see if we have any of those types of upsets in this bracket, and see if we can get one of our teams on a hot shooting night and maybe go and get one of those wins.
And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we have 3 subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We have a semi-annual where we knock that price down to $4 a month, a 6-month subscription. And then we have an annual 12-month subscription where we knock the price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage. And we don't play games here. We don't say, we're going to give you the low price of blah, 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 and make it sound better than you can believe. And then all of a sudden, after we sign you up, jack the price up. We don't play that game here. Your prices stay the same.
And we'd also like to remind you, if you see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, it is available for just $7 each. You can click on that small shopping cart icon to the bottom right, follow that prompt, and purchase as many of those as you would like. But as you've seen scrolling this site, we take a lot of photos from these games we're at. It's something we really enjoy doing, and it's something we're proud of here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All big country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.